Okay, welcome to La Excellence's program on how to deal with the general essay. What we're going to talk today about in the first instance is what is the general essay and what is expected from a general essay answer. So in teaching the general essay at La Excellence, we basically follow the 4 criteria given in the UPSC syllabus notification. And those 4 criteria are as follows. You may have read these yourself already, but to repeat them. 1. Keep closely to the subject of the essay. 2. Arrange the ideas in an orderly fashion. 3. Be concise, so concision and precision. And 4. Effective and exact expression. Now, how do we understand these 4 criteria and how do we factor them into the general essay answer? These 4 principles can be divided into 2 questions really, questions of form and questions of content. What do we mean by form and content? Form is the how of an answer. How is an answer structured? How is it written? What shape does an answer take? Criteria 2, 3 and 4 from the criteria I just read out to you cover form, which is the organization or arrangement of an answer, and you need to be very careful about how you organize your answers. In fact, as soon as you begin the answer, you first have an outline of how your answer is going to be structured. The need to be precise, which means that you have an extremely short word limit. Even for the general essay, it's not more than 1200 words. You need to be absolutely concise and precise because the questions are large, the subject areas are vast, and you need to be precise in how you're answering the question. And third, the need for correct and exact use of language. So very often you are told that English is not important to the answer. What they're really looking for is content, but this is wrong information. They are looking for criterion number 4. Criterion number 4 says effective and exact expression, which means that you have to express yourself in the best possible way, in the clearest way, and in the correct way. And writing English in a correct way is itself important because the content is linked to the form. How you say what you're going to say is going to affect what you are saying and what your argument is, and that argument has to become clear to the examiner, and therefore form is as important as content, language is as important as subject material. Criterion 1, which is keep closely to the subject of the essay, is the what of an answer, which is the content, the what. What are you saying in the answer? This is the actual point you are making in the answer, or your argument, or what can be called your thesis. The general question in the IAS system actually demands what is called an argumentative form of writing. The question asks you to take a position on something and develop arguments in support of it. When you're writing a research paper on your own, you have to come up with the thesis or the argument on your own, whereas the IAS question gives you the thesis. The question is the thesis. You underline what that thesis is in the question and you address it directly. That will form the content of your answer or the subject matter of your answer. Let us deal with both these aspects, form and content, and let us deal with them in relation to certain myths that circulate about IAS answers, about UPSC in general, which we need to break. Once and for all, we need to break these myths so that you actually are concentrating on giving the best possible answers and cracking the exam. Okay, so let's start with content. Myth number 1 about content that people have is that they say, I do not need to, or I should not in fact take a position in any answer. In case the examiner, whose politics might be different from mine, who might be from a different region, from a different caste, from a different class, in case that person gets offended, I should be very careful not to take a position. This is actually wrong. There is really no point in speculating about who your examiner is or what her or his politics is likely to be. You are really not to be concerned with that. You have been asked a question. You have to answer that question to the best of your ability. That's all you can do. This is a question of method. The IAS system is a question of method, not of politics, not of ideology. So no matter what your politics, the answer is examined on the basis of the 4 criteria I started this module with, which are, to repeat, keep closely to the subject of the essay, which is the question, arrange your ideas in an orderly fashion, be concise, and effective and exact expression. These are the 4 criteria. So they are not concerned with your politics, with your ideology. They are concerned whether you have kept close to the subject of the essay in your answer, whether you have arranged your ideas in an orderly fashion, whether you are concise in how you answer, and whether your English or whatever language you are writing in is effective and exact in its expression. This is what they are looking at, right? So do not bother about the politics of the examiner or your own politics. The answer is examined on the basis of those 4 criteria: how closely you have kept to the question, how you have arranged your evidence, how concise you have been, and how you have expressed yourself, how exactly and how effectively. Myth number 2. Constantly again these myths circulate about IAS that you need to be positive in your answers. Now this is not a course in self-help and positive thinking, right? This is an IAS exam. They are asking you about your knowledge about particular areas of contemporary Indian life, and they are asking you a question that demands a specific answer. That question, for example, might be a negative question in the sense that it may be about some phenomenon, social, political, economic, that is actually quite harmful, quite dangerous. They want to know whether you understand the phenomenon, whether you know how to answer and offer evidence to explain your position on that phenomenon. They are not looking for positive thinking. So you do not need to be positive or negative about anything. All you need to do again is to answer the question to the best of your knowledge and ability. That's it. Myth number 3, I need to offer solutions to problems in all my answers, policy solutions. This is again a dominant myth. Many people who do them pass the exam, but that's not the point, or even they may be toppers. That's not the point. That this cannot be a formula of the answer. Do any of the 4 criteria I have just read more than once to you now, do they say be positive or offer solutions? No. If the question demands that you offer solutions, suppose the question is, what solutions do you offer to the water crisis in India? Then you offer solutions, yes. But if you think that you have to offer positive solutions or positive thinking in every answer that you are asked, you are wasting your time. You are not answering the question, you are not keeping closely to the subject of the essay, your ideas are not arranged properly, you are not being concise, and you are not being exact in your answer at all. So do not offer solutions to any problem unless you are explicitly asked to offer solutions to a problem. Myth number 4 is, the more examples I give, the better. I need to give as many examples as I can. This is not true. You do not need to pile on examples. If you pile on example after example after example, what you do is you clutter your answer, your organization goes for a toss, and each point is not developed properly. An example must be used only to develop a point. The point is important, not the example. The example is simply to illustrate the point. So you have to organize your points, and 1 example per point is more than enough. You do not need 10 examples per point. Remember that the essay word limit is 1000 to 1200 words. You cannot have 20 examples. And lastly, myth number 5, that you feel like I have to offer both sides of the argument, I have to give a balanced view. If you look at the questions of the UPSC in the last 20 years under general essay, none of those questions are asking you for a balanced view. They are taking a particular position and they are asking you whether you agree with that position or you don't agree with that position, and you give evidence to support why you agree with that position or why you don't agree with that position. So the idea of taking a balanced view and offering both sides, again, is wasting your time, wasting words, and actually dilutes and weakens your answer. You can bring in a different position to counter it depending on your position, but there's really no there's really no sense in, and no time either, to give every position on a particular problem. They're not asking you for every position. The question doesn't say outline all the positions on this particular problem. It doesn't say that. It says this is the problem, this is the position, do you agree with this or not? And you have to develop your argument, offering evidence as to why you agree or why you don't agree. So these are the 5 myths that you should need to really keep in mind when you're writing a general essay answer at the level of content. Now we move to the level of form. In form also there are 5 myths I want to talk about. First myth is that I have to put everything I know about the subject in my answer. I have read 20 articles, 1 book, a magazine, looked at statistics, so I need to put everything in this answer. If it's about, say, the health crisis in rural India, I need to put everything I know about the health crisis in that answer. No. The question is asking you something specific. You answer specifically only with data that is relevant to the question. So no, you do not put everything you know, you only put in what is relevant to the question. Remember the first criterion again, keep close to the question. Right? Myth number 2, I need to master some connectors, moreover, however, despite, given that, and use them to start each paragraph. These answers don't need connectors. This is a wrong bit of information given to you. Each paragraph, and we'll talk about the paragraph in another video, but each paragraph has a particular idea, one idea. That idea is independent of the next paragraph, which has another idea, so it doesn't really need connectors at all. So just drop this idea that you have to learn some connectors from a grammar dictionary and use them in every answer. Not true at all. Myth number 3, which I've already talked a little about, that the quality of my English is not important, it's just the points. No, actually. One of the criteria, again to repeat, that I read to you was clear and effective expression in the language you are writing the answer in, which means language or form is as important as content. This is about the use of language. Using wrong English or lazy English, if you're writing the answers in English, will lead to the loss of marks, and rather your argument will lose its strength and not make sense to the examiner at all. So actually pay attention to English, and what we're going to do at La Excellence is also build your technical skills in English to write an effective answer. And we will do videos on this at regular intervals to help you write the answer correctly and in correct English. Myth number 4, I need to develop a fixed format for every answer, and no matter what the question is, I need to put that format in. So for example, you have a format saying let's have subsections, social dimension, economic dimension, political dimension, and I will put that in every answer. No, every answer does not actually demand that you write these various dimensions. Some questions are about just one dimension, and you need to focus on that dimension. Every question, in fact, can only talk about one dimension. It can't talk about everything. In 1000 or 1200 words, you cannot talk about the whole world and the whole world of even one problem. You can't. So there is no fixed format for any answer. You need to adapt to the answer, and you need to think on your feet as soon as you get the answer, as soon as you get the question, as to what the question is asking you and how best to answer it depending on the evidence that you have. And myth number 5, that a general essay is the same as a general studies answer. This is not true again. Apart from the very different word lengths of a general studies versus a general essay answer, general studies answers may also be purely expository, that is seeking information, or even optional questions sometimes can be purely expository or seeking information and not argumentative, whereas the general essay question is almost always argumentative and therefore quite different from your standard general studies answer. There are some questions that in general studies also are argumentative, but not all, whereas practically every question from the general essay is argumentative. So through this video, what I've tried to show you is the basic way of thinking about the general essay. In the next video that we do, we will look at the format of a general essay answer and how this format can help you structure your answers better, both in terms of preparation and eventually writing the answer in the exam. Thank you.